We were a group of 5: Jake, Marissa, Troy, Danielle, and me, Eric. Every summer, we took one weekend off from our hectic city lives to venture deep into nature, away from Wi-Fi, noise, and people. That year, 2022, we picked the Black Hollow National Forest, a remote, barely charted stretch of wilderness known for its undisturbed terrain and primitive campsites. It was a place with almost no human presence, and that was the appeal. The forest welcomed us with thick canopies, damp moss, and that earthy smell of pine and decay. We set up camp by a cold stream, miles away from the nearest ranger outpost. There were no sound of cars, no planes overhead, just the chirps of distant birds and the rustle of leaves. Marissa, ever the superstitious one, brought up a legend she'd read online. They say Black Hollow used to be sacred land. Native tribes claimed it was alive, that the trees could speak. Jake laughed. Trees can barely grow here, let alone whisper. Still, she wouldn't stop. There were also stories about disappearances, like whole groups of campers who walked in but never walked out. Danielle rolled her eyes. Let's not turn this into a ghost story fest. We all agreed to drop it, but something in the forest had already heard us. The first night, that night, we drank, told stories, and laughed around the fire until only glowing embers remained. Then, slowly, one by one, we retired into our tents. I woke to the sound of crunching twigs. At first, I thought it was one of the others going to pee, but then I heard the sound of something sniffing. Loud, deliberate inhalations, like something trying to identify us. I sat up, heart hammering. My flashlight revealed nothing but mist. The forest had gone utterly silent. The next morning, we found strange footprints circling our tents. Not boots, not paws, bare feet. Human, but not quite. The toes were elongated, twisted. Jake claimed it was a prank, but Troy wasn't laughing. Look closely, whoever or whatever this was walked barefoot, but there's no sign of them leaving, no trail leading away. The vanishing. On the second night, Troy didn't return from collecting firewood. We waited an hour, then 2. Finally, Danielle and I grabbed flashlights and followed his trail into the dark. It was as if the woods had swallowed him whole. The trail disappeared into thick brush, and we kept shouting his name, but only our echoes answered back. Then we heard it, a distant voice, somewhere between a whisper and a growl. Help! It sounded like Troy, but off, warped, as it played backward and through static. We ran back to camp. Jake wanted to hike out immediately, but it was too dark, and none of us could risk getting lost. That night, we took shifts to stay awake. During my watch, I noticed Marissa standing at the edge of the trees, staring out. Marissa? She didn't move. Marissa! I rushed to her, only to find her eyes glazed, lips murmuring. It's calling him. It took his face. I pulled her back to the fire. She came to slowly, claiming she remembered nothing. Part 4, what the forest showed me. By dawn, Jake was gone too. His boots were still by his tent. His sleeping bag still zipped up. Only one thing was out of place. A branch placed carefully on his pillow. Not fallen, placed. Panic set in. We packed up, ready to make our way out. But the compass spun wildly. GPS? No signal. The trees, they seemed to rearrange themselves. And then the forest showed us things. Visions. Memories that weren't ours. Danielle screamed as she saw images of herself being dragged beneath the earth. I saw flashes of children running through the woods, being consumed by the undergrowth, swallowed whole. We ran blindly, for hours, until we returned to camp. Again, back to the same extinguished fire pit, the same tents. We had been walking in circles. The forest wouldn't let us leave. Part 5, the truth beneath. I don't remember falling asleep, but I awoke beneath a sky littered with strange constellations. Marissa was gone, Danielle, and I followed strange markings carved into trees, symbols that hadn't been there before. They led us to a hill that hadn't existed before either. Beneath it, a hollow cave. Inside, the air was colder than ice. Walls of root and bone twisted around us. And then we saw them. Jake, Troy, Marissa. They stood still, motionless, eyes vacant, mouths slightly open. But they weren't alive. Their bodies were being worn, like puppets. Behind them, something stirred in the dark. A shape made of branches, moss, and death. A creature grown from the forest itself, ancient and ravenous. It didn't eat flesh. It consumed identity, memory, essence. Danielle was taken first. Roots shot from the ground, dragging her in. Her scream was cut off by silence. I ran. Escape or not, I don't know how long I ran. Time didn't exist anymore. I emerged on a road at sunset, filthy, bleeding, and alone. A ranger found me the next morning. They claimed there was no Black Hollow, that the area was closed for over a decade. No record of any campers. I tried to forget. I moved away, changed my name. But last night, I heard scratching at my window. When I looked, Troy was standing there, smiling, and behind him, the forest that never forgets. The gathering. We were strangers, mostly. The only thread connecting us was an obscure Reddit post titled Campfire Confessions, Real Horror Only. The post invited thrill seekers to a remote camping trip in the Colorado wilderness for one weekend. No phones, no GPS, no names. Only stories. There were 7 of us. Myself, who went by Gray for the weekend, and the others. Hawk, Luna, Stitch, Ember, Knox, and Belle. All aliases. We met at a gas station, piled into 2 trucks, and drove for hours into the mountains until we reached a hidden trail, completely unmarked. By dusk, we had made it to a ridge overlooking a forest basin, set up camp, and built a roaring fire. The first story began with laughter and mild spooks. But as night deepened, the stories grew darker, more personal, uncomfortable, and then Ember spoke. She told us of a man she saw in the woods as a child, a pale man with eyes like broken glass who only appeared through smoke. Her voice trembled as she described how he mimicked her parents' voices and led her into the woods, only to vanish. When she finished, silence fell. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. The fog descends. We awoke to an unnatural fog blanketing the campsite. Thick, choking, sweet-smelling, like something was burning. Luna was gone. We searched the area, called for her, circled the woods. No response. But we kept hearing faint laughter in the fog. Not Luna's. Knox claimed he saw a figure crouching on the hilltop watching us, head cocked unnaturally to the side. When we rushed up, there was nothing but a ring of ash in the grass. Fresh. When we returned to camp, Luna's sleeping bag was gone. So was her mug, her jacket, as if she had never been there. The smoke man. That night, the story stopped. No one spoke. No one laughed. We sat in near silence, staring into the fire, feeling eyes on us. Then Hawk gasped. We turned and saw him pointing into the flame. There was a face, flickering, pale, grinning. Smoke twisted unnaturally above the fire, forming limbs, shoulders. It crawled up and away, dragging the firelight with it. One by one, the firewood collapsed into ash. The temperature dropped, and in the distance we heard Luna's voice. It's beautiful. Stories rewritten. The next morning, Ember found pages near the edge of camp. Handwritten. Stories. Each of us had one. They detailed what we had shared around the fire, but the endings were different. Twisted. Violent. In mine, I walked into fog and tore my own face off. Knox threw us into the fire. It didn't burn. Stitch tried to leave that night. We heard him running into the woods, his flashlight bouncing wildly. Then a scream. And silence. Ember's secret. Belle accused Ember of bringing something with her. That her childhood story wasn't a memory, but an invitation. that the smoke man was real, and she brought him back with her. She denied it, but that night we found her sitting in the ashes of the fire, humming. She held a lighter in her palm, lit it, extinguished it, lit again, and whispered, "He's here. He wants stories." We backed away, but smoke was already filling the clearing. It poured from her mouth. The price of truth. One by one we were taken, not physically. Our memories were replaced. I remember waking up in my apartment a week later. Clean clothes, phone fully charged. No calls, no photos, just a strange message in my notes app, telling my story. I only remember fragments now. A man with eyes like shattered mirrors. A fire that never went out. A girl who traded 7 souls for silence. I looked up the Reddit post. It never existed. But sometimes when I light a candle, I swear I see a figure in the smoke, waiting. The legend of Echo Creek. It started with a local legend, the kind whispered at campfires to keep children from wandering too far. The story of the hollow tree in the heart of Echo Creek Forest, a place avoided by even the boldest hikers. They say the tree was ancient, hollowed out by lightning centuries ago. Locals believed it was cursed, that it was once used to imprison something. A creature, a spirit, a witch. No one agreed on what. Only that anyone who touched the inside of the tree would go missing. Not instantly, not publicly, but within days. And their voice would echo from the trunk long after they were gone. We didn't believe any of that. Not really. But that's the kind of story that makes a place perfect for an off-grid camping trip. We were a group of 6. Tyler, our overconfident guide. Jessa, his girlfriend. Tommy, the skeptic. Raquel, my best friend. Chris, our quiet photographer. And me, Maya. We packed light, brought cameras, GoPros, and voice recorders. Our plan? Film a documentary, Ghosts of Forgotten Trail. We never finished it. The first night, we reached Echo Creek after hiking for hours with no service and fading light. As we set up camp, Tommy swore he saw something in the trees, just shadows. Chris took a dozen photos with his infrared camera, but nothing showed up. That night, we built a fire and dared each other to find the hollow tree. Tyler claimed it was only a mile from camp. At midnight, we went looking. We found it. It was massive, older than any tree I've ever seen. Burned black inside, with a jagged hole in its center like a twisted mouth. Chris stuck his hand inside first. See? Nothing. He laughed, slapped the bark. We took some pictures and went back to camp. We joked about the legend, but Raquel didn't laugh. She kept staring into the dark, whispering. Didn't it feel like something was watching us from inside? We thought she was trying to spook us. Then the knocking began. The sounds from the tree. The next day, Chris was quiet. He didn't eat, barely spoke. He just kept going through his photos again and again. "There's something in the tree," he said. "Something off. Look closer." He zoomed into one image. Just behind the hollow, a pair of pale hands were pressed against the inside wall of the tree. Impossible to see unless you knew where to look. No one was behind the tree, Jessica insisted. I was filming the whole time. We laughed it off, blamed it on editing artifacts. Chris didn't. That night, as we slept, we heard tapping. Tap, 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 tap. We thought it was woodpeckers. Until it started forming a pattern, rhythmic, intentional. Raquel recorded it and played it back. Morse code. Chris translated it. Help me. The vanishing. By morning, Chris was gone. His sleeping bag was still zipped. His boots were by the fire. His gear untouched. No footprints. No sign of struggle. Tyler and Tommy searched all morning. I stayed behind with Raquel and Jessa. That's when Raquel told us something horrifying. She had gone back to the tree alone that morning, and Chris was there. Inside it, she didn't mean physically. She meant she heard him. His voice. whispering from inside. He says we're next, that the tree feeds. We laughed at her. We were scared, sure, but hallucinations? Voices from wood? It was easier to believe Raquel was cracking under pressure. Then we found Chris's camera. It was at the base of the hollow tree, covered in sap. We checked the footage. The last clip was taken just before dawn. He stood in front of the tree, speaking calmly. I feel pulled to it. I don't think it's evil. I think it's alive. Then, without hesitation, he walked into the hollow, but the space was too small. He shouldn't have fit. The video ended with screaming, then static. The tree wakes. Tyler wanted to leave, but our maps were useless. GPS was dead. Compass spun in circles. No sun, just clouds. That night, the tapping came again. Closer, from the trunks around us. All around. Then voices. Chris, don't sleep. Raquel, they're in the bark. A shadow passed over fire. It looked like Raquel, but she was right beside me. Tyler screamed. Something grabbed him and dragged him into the woods. We ran after him, but there was nothing. Just claw marks on the trees and a trail of bark flakes leading back to the hollow tree. We never saw Tyler again. Hollowed out. Only 4 of us left. We didn't sleep. Just huddled near the fire, knives in hand, listening. The tree was closer now. We hadn't moved camp, but it was closer. The next night, Tommy snapped. Started screaming at the woods, cursing the tree. He lit a Molotov cocktail from our supplies and marched off to burn it. He never came back. We found a fresh hollow in the base of the tree, still smoking. Inside, carved into the wood, were the words, 6 enter, none leave, roots and remains. Jessa and I tried to leave that morning, but no matter which direction we walked, we returned to the same clearing. The tree was always visible in the distance, always waiting. Then Jessa, she changed. She started laughing randomly, speaking in whispers to herself, digging into the earth with her hands. I can feel it, she said. It wants stories. It feeds on memories. That's how it grows. That night, I woke to find her gone. In her place, a mound of leaves, buried underneath her jacket, her phone, her teeth, and the whisper, tell them. Escape? I don't remember how I left. I just remember waking up in a hospital 3 days later, dehydrated, raving. They found me wandering outside a ranger station, covered in sap. No memory of how I got there. The search teams never found the hollow tree. No trace of the others. No footage from Chris's camera. But I remember. And sometimes when I close my eyes at night, I see bark creeping across the walls. Hear the tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Help me. Into silence. I joined a hiking group on a whim, one of those online disconnect from the world retreats. The promise was simple. 3 days, no phones, no tech, just nature. The organizer, Mara, was a wilderness guide and minimalist lifestyle influencer. I needed the break. We were 9 in total. Mara, myself, and 7 others. Cam, Julia Mo, Rafi, Simone, Petra, and Milo. We drove 5 hours into a national park. So remote it didn't even appear on public maps. A ranger met us at the edge of the forest and signed off our permits. He looked at us with a strange unease and said only one thing. Don't follow the silence. We laughed, thought it was some cryptic trail wisdom. We didn't laugh later. Something missing. On the 2nd day, we began to notice something strange. The forest, vibrant with birdsong on our first morning, had gone eerily still. No wind, no insects, just complete, unnatural quiet. Mo was the first to mention it. Something's off, he said. I can't hear my own breathing. We joked he was just being paranoid. But then Petra tripped and twisted her ankle and didn't scream. Her mouth moved. We saw the pain in her eyes. But no sound came out. None of us could speak. Not a whisper. Our voices were gone. vanishing into stillness. Panic set in. We tried to leave, but the trail was gone. The trees, they had shifted. Everything looked the same in every direction. And the silence wasn't just external. It pressed into us, thick like cotton in our ears, a vibration that muted thought. Cam tried using his whistle. Nothing. It cracked in his hand like cheap plastic. That night, we made camp as a group. No fire. It wouldn't catch. No warmth. No words. Just fear. In the middle of the night, Milo vanished. We found his boots, his backpack, and a small pile of bloodless teeth laid out in a circle. Julie screamed when she saw it, or she tried to. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The quiet man. We began seeing him on the third day, a tall figure in a long coat, utterly still, standing among the trees, always at a distance. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. But every time we blinked, he was closer. Mara finally broke. She wrote in her journal, "We've wandered into a dead zone. Something feeds here. On vibration. On life." We didn't sleep that night. Rafi stayed up to keep watch. I blinked once, and he was gone. In his place, a mirror. We gathered around it. Our reflections didn't match our movements. Some of us had blood streaming from our mouths. Others had no eyes. Petra's reflection kept whispering a single word, even though she wasn't moving. Hush. Part 5, Disintegration. One by one, people began forgetting words. Concepts. Petra couldn't remember what trees were. Simone kept mouthing nonsense syllables. Emo forgot how to hold a fork. It was like we were unraveling. Julie had a complete breakdown. We found her clawing into her own neck with a rock. She had etched letters into her chest. He comes when it's quiet. We buried her near a silent stream. No one cried. We couldn't. That night, I dreamed of a dark room. Endless. No echo. And in the center, the quiet man stood, arms outstretched, mouth open in eternal scream, but no sound came. Only stillness. The silence grows. Mara tried to fight it. She used a stick to tap Morse code. She wrote journals furiously, teaching us to communicate with blinks, claps, anything that made sound. But the silence adapted. Claps stopped echoing. Sticks snapped without noise. Even the wind began to blow in absolute stillness. Eventually, only Mara and I were left. She began digging a hole, not to hide, but to bury her voice. She wrote, "He wants total silence. That's his price." She lowered herself in and signed to me, "Cover me." I didn't. I ran. I ran until I couldn't feel my legs. Until I saw a faint line of orange tape tied to a branch. The ranger's trail marker. Sound returns. I stumbled out of the tree line and collapsed in front of the ranger station. They said I was gone for 8 days. When I spoke, my voice cracked like dry leaves. My hearing returned in waves. So did the nightmares. The doctors said I had some kind of psychotic break, that the trauma had caused sensory hallucinations. But when I recovered enough to return to the forest, they showed me a recording from the ranger's trail cam. One frame. Just before I appeared on the road, a figure stood behind me. Long coat, mouth open, still,